JB, you hear me? Do you hear me?
And the spirit of life calling, Mamela, and a voice with the fear of a child answered, I oh Mamela. Wait. There's no mountain too great. Hear these words and have faith.
Hey, Michael. Yeah, Mike, what's up? I know, but I need your help. That you can log in as that asset Batiba and your man picture on the screen. I can't move it. Yeah, I'm gonna replace it. Oh, yeah, I don't know how to fix it. So I don't see the view of the video. I don't know how. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. All right, we got to work.
There's no mountain too great. Hear these words and have faith. Have faith. He lives in you. He lives in me. He watches over everything we see. Into the waters, into the truth, in your reflection, he lives in you. Free, and a voice in the wind whispers, my own there's no mountain too great. Hear these words and have faith. He lives in you. He lives in me. He watches over everything we see.
All right. JV, you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Let me pause this music. Let's start and see. Uh, computer is really it's freezing, freezing, freezing. Okay. All right,
I can
guys. Welcome.
hear you.
Welcome. Okay, you hear me now. Okay. All right. Hopefully, I'll take care of the technical stuff that's happening in the background. But we want to welcome our viewers. Please share the link. Invite people to join. This is a real important conversation. Today, we want to talk about the elections in Liberia. I believe elections are what 16 days away in Liberia, or so 17 or 16 days away, if I'm not mistaken, on October 10th. There are a number of things that have been happening in the country around the elections, and so we will be discussing those issues today. As you can see, I have Councillor James Verdier. We're hoping to be joined by Moses Sandy, former president of the Association of Liberian Journalists in the Americas, and hopefully Cyrus Gray from Liberia, as well as Michael Rennie. We will be the discussants today. We urge you to, listen, participate in the program. We've been having some technical glitches. We're trying to troubleshoot them in the back. So back end, we have a few videos that we wanted to play. I was trying to upload them, but I also, due to the technical problems, we haven't uploaded them yet. But hopefully, while the program is ongoing, we'll be able to fix those things and, and play them for you while we have the conversation. The topic today basically is can Liberia hold free, fair elections on October 10th? Are we ready? Is the National Election Commission ready? Are the various institutions that are responsible for conducting these elections ready to hold free, make sure we have free, fair, and peaceful elections in Liberia? And I'm adding the peace element because, as you know, there have been a lot of comments lately about, if the elections are not free and fair, there will be violence. People have made those statements. And so we will be discussing those issues today. I will Councilor Verda, you can, begin the conversation while I try to work on a few things in the background. So I want to play that video where I believe Senator Dillon, a group of people went to the NEC offices and, basically were requesting a publication of the voter roll. So the voter roll in Liberia has not even been published. So political parties are not aware, citizens are not aware of who's on the roster and who's not. Voter rolls are supposed to be published, so political parties, but especially citizens, can inspect the rolls and see whether people who registered in their areas in the districts are actually live in those districts or are meet the registration requirements, etc. So the publication of a voter's roll is a very critical element of the election process. As I said earlier, we have 15, 16 days left. That hasn't been done. So I'm trying to see if we can upload that video and play it. But in the meanwhile, we want to begin our conversation about whether Liberia is ready to hold free, fair, peaceful elections on October 10th. I'll turn it over to Councilor Verdier to begin having the conversation while I do some technical stuff in the back.
Well, thank you, Alfonso. Good afternoon, good evening to everybody wherever you are. It's good that we can sit again to have conversations around elections, peace, and democracy in Liberia, our common patrimony. Uh, it's a very difficult question to answer at this point. One, because we are not NEC, we are just citizens. And thirdly, we are also removed from the actual situation back home since we are in different parts of the world. So it's a difficult question to to just respond to in terms of the affirmative or in the negative. But what we can rely on uh, are basically information coming out of Liberia, information flowing from the National Elections Commission, information flowing from different persons, information flowing from the political parties, all regarding the preparation of NEC, regarding the uh, logistics, regarding implementation of election guidelines, regarding the satisfaction of political parties as to whether or not there is indeed a level playing field for all participants, whether or not there has been adequate voters education and voters awareness, whether or not the citizens themselves are actually convinced that time is right and they're prepared to go to the ballots and to elect a new corps of officers. Whether or not there's an issue of adequate security, to make sure that everybody who turns out to vote on that day is secure and happy and confident that he or she is being protected and can actually go and participate in free and fair elections. So there are numerous questions. So I think let's take it sequentially. I would think that from the perspective of the citizens, I think they're ready to vote. Citizens have expressed their desire. They're anxious. There's a lot of anxiety, to participate in elections. They're calling for the government to make sure that October 10th is a reality. So I think from the perspective of the citizens, they are ready to vote. From the perspective of the law, the Constitution provides that every 6 years there will be this renewal of tenure, renewal of mandate, for people to go ahead and vote in their political leaders. So the law is right as well, and it's time to fulfill the law. Now, the biggest thing is the national institution that is responsible for planning, organizing, and implementing elections. And of course, that body is the National Election Commission. Is the NEC prepared? There are issues of logistics. There are issues of ballots being printed. There are issue of transportation, not necessarily to the urban areas, but more difficultly, more strategically and more crucially, transportation of these ballots, these voting materials to areas that are not even reachable by roads, by paved roads. What are the logistical standpoint on the part of the election commission to make sure that all of those different precincts in the far reaching areas are prepared to receive their ballots? How well, how quickly election magistrates going to be deployed? How quickly are poll watchers, are going to be deployed and all of that into those different areas? Are they ready for that? How much access has been provided to political parties to campaign freely and fairly without any let of hindrance, without any fear that they're being attacked? What is the government doing if there's any semblance of election violence? What preparation have government made to make sure they can intervene, address those situations, and quell any situation that tends to ferment, quarrel or violence? So all of these things have to be answered. There are many other things too, that stay unanswered in terms of the voters' role. As the voters' role final voters' role being published, there should be opportunity for people to look at the final voters' role and, if possible, even challenge the voter role, authenticating the voter role before we go to the election. Has that happened? So all of these things have to be answered in terms of preparedness. How prepared are we? There's an issue at this point in time. I think it's almost mute because we're a few days into the election. as to whether or not the election commission itself is in the position to be considered impartial and independent and can demonstrate that ability to actually execute decisions regarding the election. Is that, do we see, and I'm not just talking about the theory, but in terms of reality, in terms of the optics, in terms of perception, do we see that election commission as a credible, independent, autonomous agency that is capable of taking decisions during the electoral process, whether irrespective of who is involved, which party is involved? That is very important, because if people perceive the elections as not being free and fair, that can foment issue. So going to election, we're supposed to be, and I'm happy that I've heard a couple of political leaders in Liberia expressing their confidence in the election commission to conduct free and fair elections. I think this commission has conducted elections before. So for me, that is also very critical going to the election. Do we trust the election commission to conduct free and fair election? And that trust is not just centered around the ability to organize transportation, the ability to print ballots, the ability to print documents. No, that trust essentially and critically is centered around the capacity and ability of the commission to take decisions affecting the elections. Can they take an independent decision affecting the election based on the laws, on the election laws and the constitution? And that is critical. If we see them as that, then and that's good. At this point, I don't have enough reason to think that this current election commission may not exercise its independence and professionalism and integrity when faced with it. I think they should be able to do that. But do the citizens see them like that? So that's an issue we need to look at going forward. And then there are many other legal issues that we can talk about, as we go on through the show.
Yeah, definitely. No, thank you. I think that's a very good overview of the situation around elections in Liberia, and as it relates to whether or not Liberia is ready to hold free, fair, peaceful elections. You kind of touched a lot of the key points here, including the preparedness of the elections commission, the preparedness of the citizenry. You're right. What we see in the streets, what people are doing, turning out, and definitely the population is ready and excited to participate in an electoral process. The whether or not they have the guidance to participate fully, to make sure that their votes count is another thing, and I think it's a critical piece that we should consider. And you kind of touched on it a little bit when you mentioned voters' education. I know a week or so ago, Cyrus was on this show. He just went to Liberia, and he was saying when he got into Liberia, he basically saw nothing around voters' education happening, particularly from the neck end of things. People still don't know how to vote. People are not being taught on radio and the regular local vernaculars, and how to cast their votes, what constitutes valid and invalid vote. Another critical piece you talk about is election monitoring. I just heard recently the election commission saying that they just got their logistics in the country. I just heard recently political parties saying they will train election monitors. I mean, 2 weeks to the election time, these people are talking about training election monitors to send around the country. And so these are really critical points that I think is important to discuss so that the public is fully aware. Another critical element you mentioned is election security. You know, well, I worry about it every day. With the type of tension that's going on in the country, I wonder, let's say, if a group of people just attack a polling place in Lofa County and say, "Oh, we're not going. Well, nobody will vote here today." Do we have the security, the necessary security to protect the people, to make sure that they can cast their votes and their votes be counted? These are all critical issues. I want us to go back to the issue of the voter roll. Um, Hopefully, Michael will upload the video later. He just told me he's on his way and he'll do that. So that's fine. So we can play that video. But let's discuss a little bit the essence, the importance of posting, of publishing voter roll. Why is it important that a voter roll should be published? And if it's not published at all, or it's not published on time for people to challenge, as you said, what could happen? Can that undermine the credibility of the elections?
Most definitely, Alfonso. That is not an even and situation. It's most definitely. Um, the reason why you want a photo will publish is to make sure you maintain the integrity of the election. That the electorates, citizenry, political parties that are also very key stakeholders are aware of the extent to which we can quantify the number of people going to vote. In every precinct or every voting center, we need to know how much person have registered to vote and where are these people voting. We need to know the names. Names can be duplicated. You know, it's possible that you may have two or four persons with the same names, but they will have some unique identities. So political parties are supposed to be given the opportunity to look at the voter rolls because in these different areas, their partisans are there. So they know their partisans. First, you want political parties want to make sure their partisans are registered. Because if they're not sure of that, then you go into the election and don't even know whether your partisans are registered. I mean, how you going to vote for? You want to know that. Two, you want to be sure that the other names on the voter roll, on the voter registry, are actually legitimate names, legitimate persons, who are supposed to show up to vote. So it's important that the final voter roll that tells you the number of persons who are eligible to vote are published so that people can look at them and if they have quarrels with them, if there are any queries, those queries can be run, those queries can be evaluated, they can be investigated and then resolved. I know we've had situations back before in Liberia where the election commission had to go back and correct the voter roll because there was names on the voter roll that were not real. So they had to go back. They kept on doing that. When the final voter roll came out, you're not in every election everywhere. You're not going to have 100% satisfactory, response to the voter roll. If you have 90 to 95% of people happy that the voter roll is accurate, is appreciable, is satisfactory, then you'll be talking about a successful electoral process. So it's very important to know that we understand how many persons are eligible to vote, and how many persons are going to the different polling stations.
Yeah. All right. That, yeah. So next steps. I mean, I know Senator Dillon and a group of people, as I said earlier, went to NEC demanding the publication of the voter roll. And in that video, which I hope we'll play next, the election commission basically was saying that they're not ready to publish the voter roll. I don't know what exactly that means, but we're not ready. When in fact the voter registration process ended, long time ago, and by this time we should have a voter roll. And one of the claims that Senator Dillon made is that there are people who are actually currently duplicating voter registration cards. So if the voter roll is not published, that can be a problem as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But if the election commission is saying
yeah,
that they're not ready to publish the voter roll, that for me is also another quiet statement saying we're not ready to hold the elections.
yeah,
You got to have a voter roll that you need to publish that people need to look at. There's simple thing also. If you have the voter roll published and everybody know where he or she is voting, we know the number of persons who are supposed to vote at one center. You can have registered in one center 200 electorates, of voters. And then at the end of the day, you produce a result for counting, you got 400, ballots coming from that precinct. So these are things that are supposed to involve those kind of things. We need to know exactly how many persons should vote at Center A so that when the result comes, Center A produces that a same amount or less, but not more than what's supposed to be there. So those are things that are very important for people to know.
Yeah, definitely. What next? So I'm interested in what the political parties, even civil society organizations, human rights groups, women's groups, those who are interested in free, fair, peaceful, democratic elections in Liberia, what next steps they're willing to take or that they can take to make the election commission to do its job. I've seen on social media people calling for the resignation of the election commission chair. I'm hearing stuff on social media, but also political parts, mainstream media, and political actors saying that the election commission might be trying to rig the election in favor of the ruling coalition of President Weah. So, can they? What's preventing them from going to court and going to the Supreme Court, which is the arbiter of the election disputes? Um, yeah, what's preventing them from going to the Supreme Court now to request that this is that that the voter rolls are published?
I don't
Or
know
is
what would
there
be.
anything preventing it? Is it,
Uh,
and that will probably lead us.
are you there?
I'm yeah. I'm saying you can
Alfonso?
go. You can go ahead. Sorry. Yeah,
Okay,
you can go
okay.
ahead.
It will appear that whenever an issue arises in a hard contesting political conquest, uh, the affected parties will take some time to evaluate the situation and make a determination as to what process, what avenue can be more productive, that can produce some quick results. So you urge anybody who is aggrieved to consider that before taking a move or making a move. So right now, as it is, uh, advocacy can do a lot to make sure that a public institution with such a huge responsibility can actually do what it's supposed to do, and not just through the pressure from the court, but pressure from the citizenship, from the citizenry. You should understand that when you're talking about free and fair elections and a non-violent elections, citizens have a very big role to play because they eventually are the ones who are involved in violent conduct. So the citizens themselves are supposed to think on being responsible. They should understand that you have rules and you have avenues to address your grievances. Do we want to have a free and fair election? Yes. Do we want to have a violent free election? Yes. So then all of us who are citizens, whether agree or not, we need to conduct ourselves in ways that we sing and we project as being non-violent, but interested in resolving the conflict. So you look at those approaches. Now you use advocacy, civil society will get together, call an election commission to do what it's supposed to do, you know, and then at the same time, nothing prevents you from having a three-prong or two-prong approach. You can be advocating mounting pressure on the election commission to do what is supposed to do. At the same time, you can be using the law, using the code to compel the election commission to do what it's supposed to do by law. That is easy. That is easy. You civil group get together, file a writ of McDonald's to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will hear that and call the election commission and say the election law says at this point in time there should be voter registration. Why do we not have voter registration? And after that investigation, the Supreme Court will give a mandate and say, produce voter registration as soon as so point in time, or else you halt the election process. That's what people will expect, and that's what's supposed to happen. But citizens have to decide also. So we committed we want to have a peaceful Liberia. So our conduct in any agreed situation, our conduct will be peaceful, it will be civil, and we utilize the law at its full strength at the highest echelon of our government to make sure that we can correct and put these things back on course. So citizens have a very crucial role to play as well. That determination has to be made by all political parties, the parties and say we want to have free and fair elections. We want to have a non-violent atmosphere so that everybody will be happy to go out and vote.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's extremely important. To emphasize that point. Um, yeah. I When we were in Liberia and working in the civil society movement, we definitely saw what civil society organizations were able to do and to accomplish in addressing critical issues, including elections. You were there, but Liberia Election Observers Network, Liam, which is the first ever homegrown Liberia election observation and voter education institution. We were very critical in holding the election commission accountable, but also in doing some of the things that were required and necessary to do, such as voter education, and monitoring the elections, sending people all over the country to monitor the process and make sure that it went well and all of that. And that's one of the things that's concerning to me, that it seems that a lot of the civil society organizations in Liberia nowadays are asleep at the wheel. They're not doing the level of advocacy and the level of holding institutions accountable that's required, in my view, and that was done in the past. That's a significant weakness in any society, because again, without a strong viral civil society organization holding leaders, holding the power accountable, they'll obviously do whatever they do and get away with it. And that is a concern. Again, 15 days to the election, we don't have a voter roll as yet. That is critical. That's very, very important, and that's a very serious issue that I think political parties, but not just political parties, civil society organizations should be working on addressing, and that's extremely important.
Yeah, I think Alfonso,
The other thing,
that is such a very serious issue. We're talking
yeah,
about the presence of civil society organizations. In Liberia, but now people should recognize and agree that civil society organizations really do play critical role in the democratic process. They do. And at this point in time, based on our experiences from the past and seeing what civil society organizations have done, what individuals have done, also coming from the campaign from Aberport, G. Baggers, Matthews, and others, all the way to Catholic Justice and Peace Commission and others, civil society groups, the Liberian people should understand the magnitude of power that that this element of our society can galvanize, and should continue to make sure that civil society group are present, where they represent interests of people who are speechless or unable to speak, who cannot represent themselves. But I think to a large extent to also reflect on those of us who also have that very strong presence in Liberia in terms of civil society organization, that after we exited the stage, we didn't have trained enough protege, to take on the mantle. I'm going to look back at it. I think there is something wrong with that, because people eventually, that's how nation grow and thrive. People are trained to take on responsibilities. I think we probably kind of fell short of that, as well. We need to look at it and see how we prepare people. But there are several other things too that are responsible for that. At some point in time, given the national politics, people's attention seem to drift to something else. Everybody, at some point, civil society leaders are not interested in really campaign for social justice, democracy. They're concerned about how they can get to public office and amass wealth. They're concerned about how, a couple of other things. But this role, this responsibility of civil society advocacy has to do with responsibility to your nation. It has to do with patriotism. It has to do with people being interested in making sure there's rule of law at all times. So it takes dedicated people to get involved in a process like this, because it is life-threatening as well, as you very well know. And so people have to make a lifelong commitment to be a part of such a campaign. And it's just unfortunate right now. You see, this is a critical time in Liberia, and this is where people will expect that civil society group will be very loud. They'll be very loud, discussing the issues and actually comparing government to do what it's supposed to do. Unfortunately, it's not. But again, it's not only the civil society. What's about the political parties? In a country where you have more, I think almost 20 political parties registered for elections. What has happened to them? Why are they not talking? If everybody is
Yeah.
just covering around the issue to go to election, I mean, we're talking about issues to take you to election. What happened if the elections are not held? So
Yep.
you political parties should be speaking out, should be pressuring the election commission, the government to make sure it provides and create an opportunity for elections to be held. And who benefits from the election? It's the political parties who are not running and have feeding candidates. But all the candidates, what they're doing, they're tearing each other down and not talking about the process.
Yep.
That will get them elected. And so I think I see that as a fundamental issue in terms of us creating an atmosphere, creating an environment where our partisans as political parties can go out free of any letter hindrance and be able to vote, and that all of the different programs, the different logistics, the different laws are respected and applied so that we can have free, fair election. That is a responsibility of everybody, not just the government, the citizens, political parties, electorate. Everybody has those responsibility, and that's what they should be doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And you made an important point there that, they're basically tearing each other down instead of trying to police the process and making sure that the process is working smoothly. I mean, why are they even asking for voter roll at this time? I believe the election law says that the voter roll should be published at a particular time. Why did they wait for 3 weeks or 2 weeks to election time before even beginning to put pressure on the election commission to produce the voters roll? Again, it's a weakness. I remember through the Liberia Election Observers Network when we even made the election commission to do his job. But more than that, we did the job. We did some of the job. We did voter education. We sent monitors on the field. We printed a poster-sized sample ballot that basically went all over the country.
Mhm.
And we ourselves sent people all over the country and wanted to educate people. So again, civil society organizations, as you correctly said, also have a responsibility and they can assist in picking up the pieces. I know there's a group called Angie, I believe Angie Brooks organization also I saw on Facebook trying to do some voters education, but on a limited basis. Yeah, they call Angie Brooks International Center for Women, and they launch a talking bus in Vanguard, which is commendable,
Yeah.
but it's very commendable, but it's on a very low level, and it's not reaching a lot of people. And something massive will be very very useful. People are saying that the election commission not publishing the voter roll is more sinister than capacity. Is more of a sinister act than a capacity problem, or a combination of both. Because again, they did what? How did they do the voter registration? Biometric voter registration process, which is electronic. Then they
Yeah.
went back and synthesized the process and saw and basically said that even remove about 700 people who registered more than once. So what's preventing them from publishing that list that has already been put together by them? That. So people are saying no, it's not about capacity. It's not about the technical problems you say you're having. It's really you trying to cheat the process,
And
cheat in the process by not coming up with the voter roll, especially against the background of claims that people are actually, again, duplicating voter registration cards. So it might be a strategy. You do not release the list. You release it very close to election, and people don't have sufficient time to go through it and to challenge it, and to even go to court and give the court some time to go through the process. So yeah, this, as you said earlier, the current election commission has conducted elections before many times. So these are things that they should know about. These are things that they should master by now. So the
Yeah.
fact that it's not happening, it raises serious concerns. Yeah.
And that's a serious issue. And
So
the election commission
that is dealt with. The
is
other
also
issue,
something about perception.
yeah,
That is something the election commission is really supposed to address. It's just
yeah,
imagine a situation you're going to play a soccer match, and you already you are aware that the referee is compromised. That I don't care what you do, you're not going to win because you probably heard or witnessed the referee accepting bad. So even before going into the match, you already know that how fair you think that match going to be. How do you think the players, the teams are going to approach that match? They're going to approach that match with the hope they can create a situation to actually end the match in ways that you don't imagine. So that is a perception, and the election commission needs to tackle that head on.
exactly.
When people already have a perceived impression of the commission before the election, that's not good. So they need to address that. Yeah, with the photo roll thing, that can be really a very hard area for quarrel for issues.
Definitely, definitely. Another important issue is that of let me go. Let's go to the issue of uh, security around the entire process. Um, no, let's in fact no, let's stay with the election commission, and let's talk about the issue of independence, the independence of the election commission. And I believe this is an important and critical point because very recently the chairperson of the election commission said that they do not have money to hold a runoff election if the election goes to runoff. Um, why don't they have the money by now? I mean, elections are not held. Elections are held every 6 years. So within 6 years, you should be planning and giving the election commission money. So the question then arises that the government might be basically holding the election commission by the throat to make them do what they want them to do. And that basically takes away the financial independence of the election commission. If commissioners have to run to the finance ministry every day and get small money here and there, that then compromises their independence, or even it creates a perception that the government is controlling them. And as you said, perception, it's even more powerful than reality. But people are also concerned about the reality of it. That might be, hey, if you don't do this, then we hold the money and I give it to you. Maybe the issue of not releasing voter rolls is also tied to the fact that they don't have sufficient money, and somebody might be trying to manipulate the process. Um, what do you let's talk about it and see how serious again this is. Basically the independence, but financial independence of the election commission to do its job.
I'm sure that all of those things can be looked at and considered in the grand scheme of things. I'm not outruling the possibility that something like that could happen. Several weeks ago, I think the election commission appeared before a Senate Select Committee, and the chairperson of the election commission actually stated that they have received, I think, about 80 or 90% money, budgeted for election purposes. So even though they did not receive the full amount, but they received substantial portion, more than 75% was already allocated. So what they should be doing is to actually ask the government, the financial arm of the government, to make sure that the rest of the money are available. But again, you can probably say that the executive branch of government could use financial independence or the lack of financial independence as a means of stifling the election commission. That's very possible, and that is why amounts designated for election should be given in bulk rather than given in piecemeal, not at different stages. It should be given to the election commission, to do what it's supposed to do and not hold it, and disperse in piecemeal. So when people are suspecting that you have the issue of finances, yeah, definitely finances can be used to staff for any institution, any public or private institution. You can use finance to do that. So, and another good thing is that then the election commission should be open enough to talk about these things publicly, so that people know that they have not received all the money, and how much is left. And that alone puts pressure on the government to make sure that they provide, the amount that available. But if you don't speak about it, then you also enable the government in doing that and controlling the commission. But those are things that the commission is supposed to speak about clearly. My impression from when the chairperson of the election commission spoke is that the extent to which they receive funding could actually allow them to go up to the probably up to the date of the election, and they will provide other things. So I don't think they've been hampered right now, but I would think that if all of the finances dedicated, designated for elections are not dispersed by now, then there is an issue. And this is something that is supposed to be telling the public. This is something that the designated part of the government, the Senate, should be called the finance ministry for and say, what are you waiting for to disperse the balance of the money? We can't let financial issues hinder, the election process. We can't allow that. So there are a lot of things to be done, and finances can be used to do a lot of things. I would think so too. So financial independence is very, very important for this. So I see we got a new guest. So we'll
Yeah.
get started and welcome our next panelist, so we'll continue the discussion.
Thank you.
Yep. So Moses Sandy, welcome. Moses Sandy is president emeritus of the Association of Liberian Journalists in the Americas. Moses, you recently received an award from Alja, correct? At the
Yes.
recently concluded convention in Minneapolis, St. Paul. So yeah, welcome. Mr. Sandy is a well-known Liberian journalist. He worked for the Liberia Broadcasting Corporation for a number of years, and when he came to the United States, he helped revive the Association of Liberian Journalists in the Americas, which has also been an important pressure group in terms of issuing statements and holding politicians accountable, politicians and or groups accountable. So Moses, right before you joined, we were talking about the independence of the election commission in general, but also the aspect that has to do with financial independence of the election commission, with the government of Liberia not giving them all of the money that they need to get the resources that they need to run the elections. And one of the things I brought up was the statement by David Brown, chair of the NEC, when she said that they did not have money to do a runoff if the elections were to go to runoff. And so we're talking about the independence of NEC in general, but whether or not the fact that they're receiving money in piecemeals could even undermine or create a perception that they are not independent. But right before I come to back to you, Moses, I wanted to bring Councilor Verdia in to talk about how the use of the people, governments have basically used holding back resources from
Alfonso.
institutions to strangulate in those institutions and make them ineffective. And the reason I wanted to bring you back, Consuelo, is because you were at the Anti-Corruption Commission. And it's my understanding that that was one of the tactics that the government used to stifle the work of the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Yeah, and so I know that very well.
Can
I
you?
know how it works, and like, that's what I said, that finances can be used to actually stifle progress of any institution, and most especially public institution. They use the finances. I know that at the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, probably in the last year of President Salih's tenure, that commission was not financed at all. That commission actually thrived on donors' assistance, that it had because the government was just not happy with the way the commission was proceeding independently into pursuing public officials who were part of the early administration. And I think they were not very happy about that, but we did that. But more important thing to I need to mention that seem to be in the public and people are talking about is that why did the election commission go through all of the hazard, the expenses and other things to do biometrics registration, so that people will actually not just wholly rely on mechanical voting. They went through the biometrics thing and they registered people, and now they're giving people voters registration card. I understand that doesn't even have picture on it, and people could use them to one or two persons could use that to go to two or three different centers to register. I mean to vote. I mean, why are they making the problem more difficult and more complex? Even though I think there's an issue of when you vote, they're going to put an indelible ink on your finger. But I was right in Monrovia in Painesville, and I've seen people vote and then go back and wash those ink up and still go to another station and be able to vote. So the concern is, the mounting concern that the election commission is compromised, because why would you use a biometric system to register people and you don't use a biometric system for them to vote? So I too don't understand. I don't understand the dynamic. I don't understand what's happening, but I'm just feeding off on information that has been provided to me. Moses, welcome. It's good to see you, man. It's been a terrible long time. It's a big name in Liberian media landscape,
Thank
so
you.
it's good to see
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Thank you, Counselor. It's a pleasure to see you. It's a pleasure to join you too, Alfonso. It's been a while, Counselor Varia. But I just like
Yeah,
to
Moses, you,
piggyback.
you can jump
Yeah.
in, jump
hmm
in.
hmm I just wanted to piggyback on some of the key issues you guys discussing, especially the funding of the Elections Commission. Uh, as of today's date, it means we have 16 more days to election in Liberia. And with a little over 2 weeks to election in Liberia, and we still have the commission, which has a constitutional responsibility of ensuring that the election is fully executed under a free and fair condition, is struggling financially. They just speaks, volumes about how the issue of governance in Liberia is so terrible. Counselor, you will agree with me. I mean, let's take this at a family level. If you got one of your kids graduating from school and you plan to do something elaborate, you will not start
Of
planning,
course.
3 4 days to the event, because graduation is not something that happens spontaneously. It's an event that is planned in advance and you make preparation. So
Yeah.
it's the same thing with the election. And this election is consequential. This is do or die. This is the election that will decide whether Liberia will try for the next 6 years or the country will remain stagnant. So to have a government that is literally, throwing millions of dollars on non-essential, activities, and you have the elections commission being underfunded, it just you know, it's very difficult to comprehend what is happening. The elections commission funding for elections commission is not primarily coming from the Liberian government. You have the support of the European Union. The European Union allocated a little over $16 million for election. UC is also involved. So there's international support. It's my understanding that as of now, the Elections Commission needs a little over $3 million in order to be able to to execute this election and to also hold a second round if the need arises. And up to now, the finance ministry is not forthcoming. The commission has received a little over $49 million. Just you tell me, how can we hold free and fair elections commission when the commission lacks the resources to even deploy, election officers across the country? When the commission has not made a final voter roll, to the people, registration roll, final registration roll to the final registration roll to political parties, to media institutions. How do you expect to do this in less than 2 weeks? I mean, tell me, guys, how are we going to do this? And
But
this thing did not come.
it's interesting, Moses, that
Yeah,
the election commission is not making noise about
George,
it. You know,
thanks for agreeing
he
to
got
speak
muted
to
on.
us.
Let's see, what is that?
I just want to ask you a few questions that we're generally asking to most people we meet, right? I will ask the question and you can give us an answer. Either way, and tell us why you feel the way you feel. The first question is: do you think the election in Liberia next month will be free and fair?
Well, I don't think so.
Why you don't think so?
Well, because the atmosphere I'm looking at right now in the country, I'm not seeing anything like that would be free and fair election because from the fact of the matter here, we are looking at most of the first time photo and then there's no enough let's say I call it no enough
Clarification.
from the election commission. There is no enough
No information.
information how to carry on our ballot and how to do it. So, and most of the first time voters we see, they are not elected people, they are not been voting before, so they have no idea. And then the first election we have a lot of invalid vote. And now we are looking at more first time voter and no proper awareness. So
Okay.
these are the things we are looking at.
Okay, so the other thing that people are concerned about is security. So, do you have confidence in the security forces to protect people in case there is violence in the election?
Well, from my own observation here, I don't have confidence in our security, except maybe the international community will partake. Other than that, no.
So then we'll come back. I think you have talked about them, or maybe you can go to it. Do you feel that the National Elections Commission provided or has provided enough information to you to how you can vote so your ballot is not considered invalid? Remember, 2017, more than 8,000 ballots were declared invalid votes.
That I'm aware of.
So what is the level of information now? We are 28 days to election.
Well, that's why I continue to say, and I will repeatedly say this because there's no proper and no much information to the first time voter. I continue to say this. You see, because from what we're looking at now, the first time photo one, and before then the invalid vote. Then before the first time photo, there is no proper information how people vote, how people supposed to carry on their ballot, how it will be counted properly, and what have you to get more people to carry on their vote, at least so we can know what's going on. But now there's no more
So
information.
they are now having the before they will have in the different dialects. They will be talking about how people will vote. The first thing is there. Are they have they published the ballots with all the people name and the pictures on it?
It is spinning.
Let me see if I
Thank you
can
very much
um,
for giving us your time.
Thank you.
close some of these windows here. They might be adding to the stuff. I have a lot of videos open here that I wanted to play. Um, Let me see here.
You can close some of the windows.
Yeah, yeah. Let me do that right now, and then we can upload them, bring them back later. Okay.
But I think while you do that, Moses was actually in the middle of a comment he was making. Maybe he could finish while you prepare that video.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can be talking while I do that. I have to think of Sarah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, hey, I'm glad that you can send them to answer our few questions. So if you can tell us your name and anything you want to say
Yeah.
about yourself in this election cycle, we'll be
Yeah,
happy.
Sarah.
Okay, by way of introduction, I'm Oliver M. Lord.
Okay, Oliver, you here you just graduated, postgraduate. You what did you do?
They are information technology last year on the progress.
Are you working now?
No, not yet.
What's the opportunity? Do you have any job applications out and all that?
Too many, too many.
Well, you haven't gotten replies yet.
No call, no email, nothing.
What is what do you think? You think at some point in time somebody will call you? I
And I,
mean, based on the experience of other people,
I can tell. I can say.
are there a lot of people who have graduated who are not working?
Too many, yeah.
Okay, so well, let's hope things get better. We're in an election cycle now. So let me ask you these three quick questions, right? The first question, I lost my way. The first question is okay. There you go. So, do you think the election will be free and fair?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
You don't think so? Why? Why you don't think so?
Because we got too many people competing. You know, when there are too many people, somewhere there will always be some conflict.
Guys, could you, excuse me, could you give us your silence, man? We're having an interview here. Yeah, everything you say will get on the set. Thank you, Oliver. What you say? You say you don't believe it will be free and fair because why?
Because there are too many people contesting, and you know, the Bureau, Africans as a whole, our mentality. Once, you know, when people are crowded somewhere, you always find like this understanding. And then the leader we have right now, you know, they are somehow greedy for power. So if you ask me, I would say no. Because they won't go back again to do things that they were doing from the previous time.
So, but free and fair would mean that nobody cheated. Are you suggesting that they might cheat?
You know, cheat is everywhere. So I got 100% believe that somehow, some way that someone will cheat in this election. Though.
Okay, so okay, let's come to security. The other day I heard they had a not far from here they had people were fighting over T-shirt and money.
Yeah, sure.
And even a baby got stampede.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know what what happened to the baby?
He said the baby died.
The baby died.
Yeah.
Okay. So this question is: do you have confidence in the security forces to protect the people in case violence break out as a result of election?
No, I don't trust the security force
What tells you that you don't trust them? I mean,
because they are firstly they are weak, and then they they like they listen to one person they believe in, and one person whatever he says is what they do. They don't
who's that
really,
one person? The current leader.
yeah, sure.
So that means they are not neutral. You say?
Yeah, yeah, that's it. So they don't have to believe in themselves. Yeah, for
Okay.
instance.
Elections Commission has given people enough information about voting, about how they should vote, and all that.
No,
Wow. So if you are to vote this year, that will be your first time voting.
no.
Second time. What is different from last time and this time in terms of information?
No, it was not for presidency. It was for senator.
But still, it was voting about. Well, not as big as this, right? Okay. Well, thank you, Olo. Thank you for your views. Yeah. I mean, I hope you choose the right person as you vote. You know, like you're not gonna be voting for judge. We had Okay. How are you today?
I go there.
Yeah, could you give us your name and a little bit about yourself? Maybe what you do for a living?
Yeah, I'm Samuel F. Johnson, here from Maryland County, David Maggie, president.
Okay. You work?
Yeah, I do transport, public service. I ride, take care of the living.
You drive keke?
Yeah, I ride.
Good, good. Thank you. How is it going? How's the business?
Yeah, I can say that God.
What driving keke for you?
I wake up in the morning. Oh, Papa, I go in the house to guide me, protect me.
You can bring home money. That's what you said. Okay. Well, as you see, three questions. Do you think the election will be free and fair?
Well, I feel no.
Why? I mean, everybody say no. Why is it? What tells you when you say the election not free and fair? That means the people votes will not be counted correctly, or maybe there will be harassment to stop people from voting and stuff like that. So, which other things are you thinking will happen and why?
I see the incumbent will use the power to make the election because they in power. The opposition won't do nothing.
So that's what you think will happen.
That's what I think will happen.
But I mean, is there anything that made you believe that, or you just assuming that would be the case?
First of all, when it comes to the voting process, NEC don't get agent on the field telling people how to vote, all that stuff. So people go get invalid votes. So going to the process,
Okay. Well, so let's talk about the security. What confidence you have in security in this election circle? Like, if something happens, that they will be there to protect people. Do you have confidence in the security right now?
all the security will protect the, sure they will protect the incumbent, protect the people in power.
They will not protect the ordinary
No,
people.
no,
Wow.
no.
Okay.
I feel.
Okay. So you talk a little bit about information, right? So let me ask that directly. Do you think the Elections Commission are giving enough voter information to you for you to understand the voting process?
I just didn't know. They only want about campaign.
I see you wearing a Arizona Cummings t-shirt, right?
Yeah. I'm influenced by my big brother, Ben Raleigh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the young guy, the fix up team,
Mm-hmm.
be the best people in there. Yeah.
Okay, my man. You got anything else you want to say? Anything else you want to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the ANC first day welcome you home.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
I will ask you a question. Can I ask?
So you want to ask me a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead, shoot.
So, what do you think the NC pushing for? What are intention? Yeah, because
You mean the CPP now?
the CPP, yeah, the CPP,
Well, I mean the CPP, by extension, communists,
yeah,
believe that they can bring better leadership to Liberia.
better leadership.
And that's the problem we face. So communists can say that because communists has the experience working with big corporations, big companies. So just relationship alone, the people who got the money, companies have access to those people because companies was the number two person in one of the biggest companies in the world. Most of the other candidates don't have that kind of assets. I mean, we've had example with our president, and we've seen what happened. I mean, this time with a large number of young people in the country, you need big companies here to create jobs for people. One of the big things. But one of the things I think companies brings to Liberia is he doesn't know plenty people. He's not a part of that old culture where uh, who know you and thing, especially for Liberia because one of the things we have here that is killing us is impunity. Nobody get punished for the wrong thing. People steal money, and they say, oh, the man see that money, you go. I hear some people say, oh, the man see the government money, so now you building house, they're all right. That is because everybody know each other. Somebody steal money, they say, oh, they want to punish that person. People will go to that man's hospital, their uncle, and this, that, and in the end, it will be hard to make a decision. For a guy like this who doesn't know most people, yeah, I mean, who gonna him to talk to him about anything? It will be easier for him to follow the law than most of the poor people who got remember got all Jeremy. This is also a disadvantage in the election because people used to say, "Oh, we don't know the man." But to tell you the truth, it's a good thing that we don't know the man. If we're looking for things to be fair across the board for everybody, then you should not have special people who know the president, who the president will be happy, and then you can't. Not one of the things I like about communists very much. They lack
Uh, yeah, guys. Okay. Thank you, Cyrus. Um, so Cyrus is really one of the hosted on this show, and Cyrus went to Liberia recently. We did a survey questionnaire, and so Cyrus has been going around implementing that questionnaire, basically asking Liberians about their confidence in the election process and the outcome of the election. Even though at the end there, Cyrus, injected his only political stuff. But the questionnaire was developed by Election Central, and the idea was to gauge where Liberians are in terms of their confidence in the process, whether they believe the process will be free or fair, whether the election commission, the other actors in the election process are actually playing the roles that they're legally supposed to play. Um, so that was the survey perception issue, but also real issues of actually whether or not the job is actually being done to educate voters, for example, to release the voter roll, and what the people believe. Let's take it from there. Moses, you were in the middle of
Okay.
talking before we
Okay.
started this. Yeah.
Yeah. There's still a lot of things that need to be done, but it's just unfortunate that the chair of the elections commission is not talking about these issues in the media. She met with the Senate uh, a few weeks ago. She promised that by September 18th, the voter roll would have been released. That's a law that clearly speaks to that election law. That was created in 2023. Choice 16.7 says that the voter roll will be released to political parties and the public 30 days prior to election. And that has not happened. We have less than, a little over 2 weeks to election. The chair of the commission refuses to speak to journalists. You know how she comes across when she talks to journalists. She puts people down. She treats others as subservient, and someone who occupies such a prestigious position, I think should be more relatable. Someone who is willing to talk. She's not talking. There are significant challenges. The commission is financially strapped. She's not saying nothing about that. So, like Councillor Verdio was saying earlier, when these things happen, Alfonso, that just further exacerbates the situation. It creates more suspicion. Now, that will even help to fuel the many rumors that we are getting out there. Oh, the elections commission is contemplating of rigging the election. The government plans to rig the election. This is about to happen because you have a commission that refuses to speak to the media. I would like to stop there.
Yeah. Yep. Council.
I don't think the interviews actually produce anything new. It was very important to hear, literally hear verbatim what some citizens believe and what they've been trying to express, which we were expressing from this distance as well. It's very crucial, and I don't think they all have like hard facts, but it's basically due to the perception, how they perceive the election commission, how they perceive the current situation in the country, and I can say that the government, the National Election Commission, the people of Liberia are up to a great task because perception can guide people's action.
Absolutely.
Perception can drive the things that people do, and say. So it's an important thing to have a free and fair election. The first thing you want to tackle besides logistics and organizing is the perception of the people. If you don't have 95% of the people believing that you're credible, you need to have more than 50% of people believing that you are credible and capable of conducting those elections. So that is an ongoing responsibility. Uh, I think the issue of financing is, I mean, for everywhere is critical. So I don't know how can the election commission continue to be built on the total financing of the lack of total financing, because by this point in time, there shouldn't be everything associated with elections should be disbursed right now. Even anticipating that there will be a second ballot money. That money for a second round should have been advanced to the election commission or not. That is how you assure the people that you believe in the electoral process and it's going to make it happen. You don't wait at different stages before you release money because it means you're holding back and hold at some point you might not be able to give it because you don't want to give it. So everything concerning election financing should actually be advanced. It should be in the budget, in the coffers of the election commission right now. I mean, I'm talking about as far as the second round. Money for that should be placed in the coffers of the election commission right now. So it's up to we up to see what's going to happen.
You are absolutely right because of take for example, if we could just use it as a hypothetical situation, for what if we go to election and an opposition candidate comes at the presidential level as the first, uh, the ruling administration may say, well, look, I'm just being hypothetical here. Administration may say, well, you know what, it seems that this thing here is not ours, so we're not going to fund nothing. And the commission can come to say, oh, well, we don't have money for second round. Then what happens? You see, so to manage this kind of crisis situation, like, Councilor Verdia said, the money should be made available immediately. You can give this kind of money in piecemeal. If you are wasting money buying motorbikes, for what you call pimping riders, you're throwing money here and there. You're literally paying people, to abandon the activities to go to your rally. You're ordering, uh, you know, campaign materials for the CDC. Then why the government cannot fund the elections commission? You know?
That remains a national security issue. So it's supposed to be a priority on the list of everything. Election is a national security thing, not just democratic and political change, but it is national security. So it should be crucial. That nothing, if the government has to put everything down right now, stop is expensive, and make sure the election commission is funded 100%. That's what the government is supposed to do. But that's a national security thing you're playing with, you
That's
know.
true.
So
Definitely, definitely. I'm glad you guys made that point that it's a national security issue. If people feel cheated, if people feel their voices are not being, I mean, historically in Liberia we've seen that. Right after the 1985 elections, when people felt the election were not fair and they were cheated, what happened? Few days after or so,
So
we had the
yes,
abortive invasion of Congo.
cool.
Few years after that, we had a civil war because people felt dissatisfied, because people felt cheated. That was a factor in the process. And of course, we're hearing all over today people saying if there's cheating in these elections, they will resist. They will do things that might undermine the fragile peace that we currently have, etc. So it's definitely critical. It's definitely a national security issue. But unfortunately, the administration doesn't seem to be looking at it that way. Doesn't seem to be taking it seriously, or might just be, engaged in things that they believe will benefit them in terms of perpetuate themselves in power. I mean, we just had the president and a very huge delegation of government officials come to the United Nations General Assembly when the election commission is saying it doesn't have money to hold elections in the country. Imagine, I don't know, but with such a huge delegation, how much money they spent, to come just for a few days just to give a speech at the UN General Assembly, when
maybe 10 minute
we don't
speech.
have resources to do one of the most important things in the country: hold elections that are held once every 6 years. The money should already be in the hands of NEC. So NEC is now running to the government to beg them for money. That undermines their credibility and their independence. Um, one of the interviewees talk about a concern around first time voters. That was really emphasized by some political parties during the voter registration period. Now we have the situation of election commission refusing or failing to release the voter roll. Could that be a factor? Also, with the news that people, are duplicating ballots. We have about 360,000 people who are eligible, who have reached the age requirement to register to vote, who did not register to vote. Could these duplicated cars that we're hearing about, are they making them to give them to some of those people who did not register so that they can actually vote fraudulently in the process? Could that be a reason why the voter roll is still being held back months after biometric electronic